All right, like I said, if you got somebody that can't get on it, I'll have this. You can send this out to whoever, send it out to your teams. Um, you'll have this. So, pretty much what we're going to be doing moving forward. If you were on last week's sort of Zoom meeting, we talked about a lot about recruiting and everything that kind of goes with that in the initial stages. Just really getting the girls started, trying to figure out what they want to do, what program they want to get into academically, where they're looking to go geographically. There's a lot of different things that goes into it, but you have to start somewhere. And there's really no wrong place to start. It's literally just get started with it. I mean, it's your path, your journey is going to be different from someone else's. If you've got twins, their paths are going to be different. I talked about that last week. So start with schools. Start with schools that you know. Do some research. Do something like that. Um, where do you want to live? What program do you want to get into academically? And then everything starts to kind of take its own path, and you go down that, and you may hit a roadblock and have to backtrack and go a different route, but at least you're getting started. Going to camps and stuff like that too. So as we take off from that, I'm going to jump over here and show you what I was talking about with the NCAA.org. This is a great tool. This link is in that chat. So Mandy Baldoff just put this on her page, and I grabbed it. I looked at it. I was like, you know what? This would be great to sort of start the this meeting off with. It has, you can sort everything over here on the left-hand side. If you look at sports, we can just go down, and if I can find the softball, you'll see what schools have softball. Okay, 990 schools. Now that's between D1, D2, and D3. I mean, there are a ton of schools. There's no way anybody knows all 990 of these schools. But one thing I do want to point out is look how many schools are on the east side of Mississippi. Okay, most of these people that are going to be on here watching this are going to be on this side. The Northeast is heavy, right? A lot of schools in North and South Carolina, where a lot of us are. So if your child, or if you don't really know where to get started, spend an hour or two this weekend on this link and click schools and find out what they have going on. Like if we just, for instance, if we look here at Defiance College, it kind of breaks down what they are, and you can go from there. And then they also have two links. They have their academic side, and then they have their athletic side. So all the information that you would need to get like a snapshot is all right here. Okay. So explore that, take a look at that. You can break it down into D1, D2, and D3. Also for the student athletes, this right here, there are 15 different links that you can click on to learn something. One thing I do want you to check out is the eligibility center. You can register and then go through your process. Okay. Go through whatever it is that you're looking to do, and it'll have answers in there for you. So I want you guys to open that up, check that out when you have a chance, have an opportunity to do so. All right. So with that, I got in touch with my friend, Hannah Goodwin. A lot of you guys might know her from NC State. She is the starting third baseman for them, really a jack of all trades infielder, can play anywhere on the field. This year, she was all ACC third team. She had a batting average of 359, had a OPS of 1.042, had 11 home runs, and drove in 24 RBIs. If you haven't yet checked out the podcast we did before the season got going, check that out. There's a lot of great information in there, how she breaks down a lot of different things and talks about her journey. We talk a lot about how everybody's journey is different, but I want you to hear kind of like what she's going through. It's not always, rainbows and butterflies, and it's not easy and this kind of stuff. So she's, she can go into that, but in that episode, she talks a little bit about the grind and, embracing that grind. And it's okay to not have it go perfect for you. You're going to have to get through some stuff. So Hannah, I do appreciate you joining me tonight. Short notice, but I appreciate you jumping on here. and the floor is yours.
Hi guys, my name's Hannah. I just giving a little background, I guess.
Yeah, that'll work.
So I'm going into my junior year at NC State athletically. Academically, I'll be going into my fifth year. So I kind of got set back a little bit with a red shirt. And then I had a COVID year. Um, I've been through three coaching changes. So I think that's the biggest thing from my journey that I would put to thought with your kids or yourself. Don't go somewhere just for the coachings because it can always change. So that's one of the most important things looking back on my recruiting process that I wish I would have took into consideration a lot more than I did. And then I kind of want to get into making goals and stuff for your season. Obviously, start with some goals that you can achieve. Goals are different for everyone. For example, this upcoming season, my goal is to lessen my strikeouts and errors in the beginning of the season and focus on things that I can control. Uh, I transferred to NC State to a coaching staff, and a month later, they all got fired. So we were dealing with the GA, the person that ordered our sandwiches for us was our head coach. So that was very challenging. So there's a lot of obstacles there. So just being able to control what you can control. And the most important thing is taking time off whenever your body needs it for reasons such as getting burnt out, or if you have a nagging injury that can be lessened if you just take a week or two off instead of pushing through it and getting an injury, which has happened to me my freshman year of college. I had a little bit of tendonitis and I played through it. I never took a break and had to get bicep tenodesis and labrum. So that's very, very important. Just take that break when your body tells you that you need it. And one more thing I want to talk about was some fall camps or like camps in the off season that you can do. Tyler had mentioned in the beginning of the meeting, picking schools or like lessening down to, what you want to study or like what state you want to stay in, or if you want to stay close to home. I think that is very, very important. So my advice would be picking 4 to 5 schools that you're really interested in and not just going to every camp because it looks good or it sounds good and wasting your time and money on that unless you're invited. That's obviously a different story. But I think picking 4 to 5 good schools that you like and has your major and everything like that, and focusing on going to those camps and communicate with those coaches.
So when you were getting into your journey and it was apparent that hey, this is what you're going to do. You are going to be a softball player. What were some of the key things that you would look at when you would go to camps or you would go into clinics or you were hanging around these college coaches? What were some of the things that you were looking for? And the reason that I asked that is it always comes from the other side. It's like, what are these colleges looking for? But what is that student athlete looking for in your experience?
So from a student athlete standpoint, the biggest thing that I looked for and me and my family looked for was how the coaches treated current players, how they interacted, if they got hurt, how are they going to take care of them from a distance, or are they going to stay in contact? Because that's a big thing. You sometimes you send your kids halfway across the country and you want to know that that coaching staff is going to be there for your child. Some of the other things were obviously everyone, you can't say you don't look at how nice the field is in the locker room and, the amenities that come with it. Those are two of the biggest things for me. And then how far from home it was and things like that.
And you talked about coaching changes and how that, I mean, it impacts every member of that team because every member of that team has talked to that coach before they got there. You were either recruited by that coach or coach gets fired. midway through your collegiate career and they bring in someone else that may or may not like you. So it's almost like here you go again. It's like you're trying out for this team again. So you got to go through that. Talk about those changes and dealing with the unknowns and having to persevere through that because you got to worry about your number one star when all these other things are changing around you and you're not necessarily right there with your security blanket that's been your best friends or your parents or another family member.
So I think the most important thing with that and the coaching changes, especially in the middle of the year, is something that our team pressed a lot was, a lot of people didn't like those coaches and were wanting to get them fired. Some of them had a relationship with them. Some of them didn't experience the same things. Like for me, I had just come in this year and there was a junior that's been here for 4 years that experienced some things that I never experienced. So I couldn't relate. And that's the biggest thing is it kind of split the team up a little bit into kind of like a group that didn't like them and a group that did like them. So I think making sure your team stays connected is the most important thing. And then moving forward, we start practice next week and we have a whole new coaching staff. So it's definitely going to be different. Practices are going to look different. A lot of positions are going to look different. For example, I been coaching over the summer with a summer team, and I met the head coach, and she said, "Well, how do you feel about shortstop?" And I'm like, "Well, I've played third my whole life, so I mean." But like being open to whatever they want is the biggest part if you want to find a spot on the field.
Yeah. And that brings me to my next point about these athletes that are trying to figure out when they go to camps or when they're trying out for new teams, school ball or travel ball, whatever it is, you'll hear a lot of people like, "Or I'm only a shortstop, or I'm only a center fielder, or I'm only a third baseman." Talk a little bit about being somewhat of a utility player when you get, in front of these coaches.
For sure. So there's no such thing as going to college only being a shortstop or only being a first baseman. I travel ball. I played shortstop my whole life and got to Clemson. Played a little bit of first. Played left field. I played third a little bit. Then I get to NC State and play third my whole year. Now this year I'm going back to short. So it's being a utility is something that the coaches really appreciate and like, knowing that you're doing it for the team and you're not, just saying, no, I want to play here. That's something that the coaches look at a lot. Being able to be a utility and playing wherever is a big thing in the recruiting process.
Being flexible because that's the one thing that's going to help you is that flexibility of there's four third basemen, there's three shortstops, there's all these positions that you played, and then all of a sudden they're down to one or two right fielders. Well, if you want to get on the field as a freshman, you just turned yourself into a right fielder because that's what you want to do to get into the lineup. Um, Talk about when you get there, having to deal with you're the newcomer or you're the old head and you've been there and kind of trying to figure out all these different personalities where you guys are trying to mesh and you're about to go to war with each other for 6 months.
So it's very, I don't want to say hard, but it's just hard all coming together whenever you have transfers coming in, you have freshmen coming in, and you have people that's been there. So building relationships with them is the most important part. I know at NC State, we have a team bonding at least once a week in the fall, every off day that we have on Mondays throughout the fall. And that's just because we're all so fresh. Like we have 8 freshmen coming in and we have 2 transfers coming in and then a whole new coaching staff. So making sure you understand how each player wants to be treated or talked to or encouraged, or maybe they want to be yelled at is important to know whenever you're playing a game, because if you give them the wrong feedback, they're going to react negatively to it. So I think the bonding once a week or going out to eat dinner with teammates once a week throughout the whole fall season has really helped this team come together. For example, last year when we lost our coaching staff, we had to find a way to come back together and do it together.
Well, I mean, you guys are going through all these changes as a team, and then it impacts you as an individual. So, what did you do to make sure you stayed healthy and were able to stay positive throughout your season? Because that's why you went to college, is to play softball. What did you do to handle this mentally?
So that kind of takes me back to earlier whenever I was talking about setting goals and I said, being able to control the controllables.
Mhm.
That's a big thing for me. Sometimes I forget I can't control things that aren't nearly controllable. Like I can't control that the coaches got fired. So I have to find a way to appreciate who's there helping us now, respecting them and understanding what they want out of us. I think that's the biggest part, is understanding what whoever wants out of you and being able to control what you can control.
I love it. As we go through the mental side of that, going through our mental process, there's gonna be days where we have ups and downs on the ball field, where we get the yips and have a couple errors on the
Mhm.
big stage, and when you get to college, that's the biggest stage you've been on. Or you could go over for a weekend series. What is some advice you can give to some of these parents, some of these players, to where, hey, next week or your next game is that next game? What's something that you do to get you motivated to not get down in the dumps and continue to to push through?
So personally, we've all obviously been through that. So I went through that last year. I had weekend series. I did not get a single hit all weekend. So trying to find something like your not, and it's just so cliche, but your happy place other than softball. You have to have something that makes you happy other than softball. So for me, I knew I needed to go home that Sunday and come back and just get a completely different like view, like not come back to my apartment and be in the same environment. I needed a different environment. So going home and coming back Monday or Tuesday or whenever you can get back was something that really helped me. And parents, my dad used to be so mean in travel ball and pushed me, but it was like a mean way. And now, like from a college view with everything that's going on, he's really been more positive, and I think that has helped me a ton, getting positive reinforcement, and that kind of makes you not feel so alone whenever you're struggling, because someone else is there that can see the good even when you can't see it, because there's always good and bad whether you believe it or not.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we're in this fall sort of transition period, ending up the summer travel ball season, and you went through it. You're in that mindset now. If you're an athlete, maybe a team has moved up and you're staying down in age, or you have to move up to the next age, or you're just looking for a new place to land. Um, Talk to me a little bit about being open to changes and being open to hearing some different feedback from some different coaches, and getting on that camp, that clinic style now, where the games, the tournaments that you're in, you're kind of out of that summer schedule, that national schedule where the competition is so high. Now it's kind of where you can focus on yourself.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
We're getting
Sorry,
out
my
of
computer went out. I don't have good internet. I'm
It's all
sorry.
right. So we're getting out of that summer season and we're heading into that fall schedule, to where the tournaments aren't as abundant. Maybe transitioning on teams, moving up in age, staying the same. We're going to be experiencing new coaches and new teams and stuff like that. Go back to when you were doing this, and how do we keep an open mind and not get overrun with all this pressure of us trying to find where we're going to go?
So I think being open to everything is something that is very valuable. I mean, that can be like you lose a job, you have to go find a new one. You're always going to have to be open to other things. For example, you lose a coach, you have to be open to the next thing. Or, teammates transfer, you have to be open to new people coming in. Or if you are the person transferring or moving up, you have to be open to what that coach is telling you and try it. If you don't like it, You can always talk to them. That's what coaches want to hear is feedback. So I think the most important thing out of moving up and things like that is giving them feedback, telling them what you want out of it, and them telling you some things of how they run things, or, talking to your teammates. Hey, how do you like so and so? Or how's this team been for you? And things like that.
Communication is key.
100%. And the older you get, the more I've learned that.
Yeah. Yeah, I was talking. had a chance to go up to Indianapolis this past weekend and watch the 12U and 14U Alliance Championships. And I was talking to some of the coaches that were there, some of the college coaches that were there, looking at watching 14s. And one coach was I heard him saying, he was talking to a kid. He told her, he's like, you know what, you're the first athlete that came up to me and was just talking to me, introduced yourself and looked me in the eye. So that communication right there, that resonated with that coach, saying, hey, she stood out because she's 14 or 15. I don't know how old she was, but she stood out because she carried herself. She had this confidence about her. So I thought that was pretty cool. When these girls are going to these camps and talking to these parents, and we can kind of reiterate this down the line too, what's the number one thing a kid needs to get out of when they go to a camp?
The number one thing to get out of.
What is something that you look like once you got a little bit older and you've been through tons of camps? What is one thing that you would look at or look for when you are out there as far as the physicality of your workouts?
So the top two to three things I'd look for as soon as we got in the car, we talked about, do you like the coaches? Do you like the style they teach? For example, the hitting style. Do you like the way they teach their hitting style? Is that something you can get used to? Their coaching style is a big thing. Are they more of like a soft talker, or do they yell? Or, those are two important things to really consider when you leave a camp, because that can determine your future. And, if you're that player that wants to be yelled at and they're not yelling, then that's probably not a good fit for you. If you don't do good whenever someone's yelling at you, maybe that's probably not a good fit. Or if I know this whole new thing now has come out with the launch angle. If you're not a swinger that likes launch angle, I probably wouldn't go somewhere to a school that teaches launch angle.
That's a good point. Now metrics has almost taken over the game. It's like I would have to say 90% of the D1 schools out there are paying attention to metrics on some level.
100%.
It's like it's gotten crazy, and I think the reason why is because the coaches are getting younger. I mean, there's still some old heads that are out there, but now it's this new generation of coach, and they are looking at it like baseball. So put yourself in that situation. You need to go ahead and start learning something about your metrics, what your numbers mean, what is going to make sense to you so you can understand it. If you go to a school and they have this ranking thing and they go off of your exit velocity or they go off of your RPMs if you're a pitcher, I mean, they do matter on every team, and it matters a little bit more on different teams.
That's a fact too, because sorry, I had something.
Yeah,
but,
go ahead.
That's actually very true, because our new coaches come in, and we had a team meeting last week, and she kind of was just introducing her style, how she coached, a little bit of a background from her. And she was saying, if your bat speed is not over 62, you will not be in the lineup. If your bat speed's under 62, you're not in the lineup. And, that's kind of goes back to like the transitioning thing with the coaches, and how you can control what you can control. If you want to get in the lineup and be over 62, you got to work. You got to push through, especially this fall season right here, to be able to be in the lineup in spring.
Yeah.
So analytics are a big thing, especially once you get in college.
And you'll go to those camps and you'll see where you stack up with the girls that are there. Now, it could be a small pool, it could be a camp of 50, it could be a camp of 200, but you see where you stack up against these girls. So you could go to a D2 camp, or you could go to a D1 camp. It doesn't really matter, but you can look at the girls that are there and look at the numbers they're putting up and say, okay, well, I'm at the bottom of this list, or hey, you know what? I'm at the top of this list. My numbers fit right here. I'm good with where I'm at. This is where I'm supposed to be. I could see myself making it here. So how important is it for girls now, 14, 15, 16 years old, to start paying attention to their metrics so they can see where they stack up?
I think it's very, very important. I started with my bat speed and my throwing velocity and, getting all those numbers when I was 11 years old, just so whenever I hit 15, I could meet back up and see, oh, I've increased. And then whenever I get in high school, and then when you go to college. And so I think starting off younger, introducing them to numbers is going to be a big thing for their mental health also. Because once they get to college and a coach throws a 60 at them, says, oh, your bat speed's only 60, you're not going to be in the lineup. That's something that can help with their mental health, I think, starting before they get there. So they already know what they're going into.
All right. Before we get out of here, I do want to talk a little bit about competition and finding your competition and finding your fit.
Mhm.
I hate when I hear, this D1 or bust mentality that's out there because there's good schools all over the place. And, um, there are kids that never play competition or high level competition against some of the best in the country. And they expect to go and be able to play a Power Five D1 school.
Mhm.
Talk just a little bit about chasing the highest level of competition that you can so it helps you set proper expectations, and talk about how difficult it is day in and day out to play softball for a Power Five Division I school.
So I kind of want to start off with, it's going to be hard to hear. I know as a parent and even an athlete, it's hard to take in. But the most important thing is every kid is not going to go to Alabama or Oklahoma. There's every kid is not going to Alabama, Oklahoma, LSU, any of them. It's very important to understand it, like a reality, because like I'd really opened my eyes to a lot. I coached a team over the summer, a national 16U team, and this girl is 17. She's going into her junior year and she has 4 offers: Limestone, Upstate, and I can't remember the other two. And I'm like, why aren't you commit? Why aren't you committed? And they gave you a really good scholarship, and they're really good schools. Oh well, I'm waiting to hear back from Oklahoma. So I think understanding that is a big thing whenever you can go and play at one of those two schools and fit in and be good there is the most important thing.
It's you got to figure out where you fit in the whole thing, man. And we hear it all the time now. It's a 40-year thing. I mean,
Mhm.
you can go and maybe walk on at some of these schools and never touch the field. And one thing, when we're talking about your eligibility, you get 4 years of eligibility, um, for the most part. I mean, 4 years of eligibility, unless there's different things going on as far as your sports, your
Mhm.
athletics. If it could be the 23rd game of the season and somebody gets hurt and you go in and pinch run for them,
Absolutely.
that affects your eligibility. So that
Mhm.
whole season is gone. You can't redshirt that year. So your whole
Yep.
season is gone. So for me, I would rather go somewhere that I could put a team on the map, put a school on the map. And there's it's different for everybody. Um, but like you said, I know everybody's got these dream schools of Alabama or Oklahoma or UCLA or wherever. You got to put the work in, and then once you do get committed or get signed, that's when the work really starts, because then you've got to continue earning that spot or it's going to get taken away. So
And I wanted one more thing. Sorry. You got me started now. I wanted to say one thing is that's a big part of why the rule has changed, the verbal rule and the committing rule. Back when I was getting recruited, if you weren't committed in the 7th or 8th grade, you're not going nowhere. That's just how it was back when I was in school.
yeah,
And so now it's like coaches want to see whenever you work how, if you're going to change. Or back in my time it was like they would get committed in the 7th grade and we'd never hear, they would be completely different player by the time they got there, because that was like a whole 6 years later. So now they want to see you work to get what you want and then keep working.
And it makes total sense now because it's those coaches, man, they'll make a good run over 2 years, and then all of a sudden a Power Five school is coming for them, and then hey, we want you to run our program now. So it's always it's an open door. It's a revolving door with coaches. It seems in some places. Now there's some like Patty and some others that have been there, but you know you're getting committed early back in your like you're saying 7th and 8th grade. You're committing that it could be 2 or 3 other regimes that have gone through there, and then there you are sitting there committed with somebody that the reason why you didn't go to Duke is because you didn't like that coach, and now that Duke coach is sitting at your school that you're going to. It's a fluid situation, and it stays like that. So that you have to keep your options open, and you have to make sure that that decision at the end of the day, you're going to that school for the school. You're not going to that school necessarily for that one coach. So I appreciate Hannah. Awesome. As always, it's always fun to catch up with you and talk to you. Guys, if you have any questions or anything like that, if you want to talk to her, she is on socials. You can check her out on Twitter. You can get to her on Facebook, send her a message, ask her a question. Or if you're too scared to, ask me or send me a message, whatever. I'll make sure I can get it over there to Hannah. Hannah, I appreciate you jumping on here. Guys, if you go to that YouTube channel over on Black Diamond Softball Fitness, the YouTube channel, you can check out the full podcast. She goes into detail on her journey, like I was saying, and it kind of breaks down a little bit of stuff, and she gets pretty candid with her experience. So take that, learn from her experience. She's an open book. I've talked to her a few times, and every time I talk to her, I learn something. So Hannah, I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed talking to you guys, and please don't hesitate to reach out. I'll give you the honest feedback that you're looking for. I promise.
You ain't
So,
sugarcoated anything.
and he has my number. So if you have any questions, seriously, don't be afraid. I'll answer whatever questions you have in the honest way possible.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for here. Any questions or anything like that, like we said, let me know, and I'll get it over there to her. Next week, we're probably going to do it on a Tuesday or Wednesday. Stand by for the special guest that'll be coming in on that. I'm going to try to get Hannah back on again as the season's going, so if you want to jump in on that, I would appreciate that too. Pass this word around, guys. We got some small numbers the last couple of times, which I get it. Everybody's busy. Everybody's going back to school. But we're going to try to do this once a week. Next week, we're going to be running a defensive clinic on Thursday, I believe. So we're probably going to be doing it on Tuesday or Wednesday as far as the Zoom meeting goes. I'll have this ready to go out for the parents that weren't able to get on here tonight or for the athletes. It's really for the athletes. So if you coach a team, make sure you're passing this word out. This word, it's free. Grant, Josh, Brian, it's my 2 kids on here and you 3. So the reason why I started the stuff that I started back, Josh, I don't know how long it's been, man, 2 years now. We talked about this. I started doing this because I wanted information for my daughters. And I thought, you know what? There are dads out there just like you 3 that want this information as well. So that's why I do it. Eventually, I think it'll catch on. But, as we see, there's not too many people that get on here. There were some people bouncing in and out, which is cool. Maybe they just don't like me. But I'm going to continue doing this for the next couple of months. I've got a feeler out right now for Peyton Gotcho, the pitcher from Tennessee. So next week, I'll let you know what day that is, and then try to get your teams on there as well. Maybe it'll be easier during the school season. The school year. So I appreciate you guys for jumping on here. It means a lot to me. So I will catch you 3, all 3 of you at a different time. Josh, I'm sure we'll talk tomorrow. Brian, I will see you probably this weekend. And Grant, brother, I can't wait for us to get together.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Appreciate the invite.
Yeah, man. I'll see you guys.